So, Wendell, I found this wolf in the woods the other day. The mother was so pissed. By me. So I've been training to climb this mountain, Wendell, and I've stumbled onto a nest of wolves, a den of wolves. What do you find? It was a nest of wolves. I think that's crows. Is
it a business of wolves?
It's a massacre of wolves, I believe. I don't even know. A business of wolves. They're in cahoots with the ferrets. It's a massacre business. Never mind. Yeah, so we're going to be climbing up a mountain very soon. In about a week, we're going to be doing this. It's the Highlander event. We're going to climb one of the highest mountains in North America. Well, in America. Well, in the lower 48. I'm just totally underwhelming now. We're going to climb it, and we're going to play some video games made possible by Asus, Intel, and Corsair. There, I think I've said everything I'm supposed to. This is going to be a terrible event, everybody. No, we're going to have a lot of fun, and there's going to be a lot of surprises and a lot of people that you may know from YouTube or from other places that are secret may be there. I'm not sure if John Carmack and John Romero are going to be there, but we might be playing some of their games. So if you guys are watching, hope everything's going well, and meet us on the mountain. Why not?
I don't think their Ferraris would make it up the trail.
Yeah, they're a little bit too low. A little bit too slammed is what they call it. Yeah, they're a little bit too slammed. I don't know if that's...
We are going to have battery-operated wireless routers, which there's not going to be internet because it's the wilderness. But we will have a LAN, by God.
Yep, we've got the wireless AC 1900 from Asus in today, and we're going to be playing with that, just seeing what it can do. We'll have to see how many clients this thing can handle once we get there. I'm going to try to really bother this router by hooking up a lot of clients and making them all play video games over the wireless once we get up there. So it should be a ton of fun, and that's coming up very soon, so stay tuned. Now let's get down to business with the technology events that have happened this week, starting off with some sensational news about YouTube deleting all independent music artists from its site. So a lot of different websites are saying, oh my God, YouTube has this new streaming music service, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but people are freaking out because they think that independent artists who do not sign YouTube and Google's draconian contract are going to be deleted from the site. So let me put that at ease right now. Here's what's going to happen. If an independent artist does not sign Google or YouTube's contract, they're just not going to be included in the new music service. That's pretty much all that I'm seeing from this. It looks like there's still going to be
that's not true at all.
What do you think?
What?
They're going to be deleted?
No. Yeah, not only they're going to be deleted, Google is actually going to dispatch lawyers to reverse sue you. It's the rarely seen legal move where you actually give up all the copyright on your stuff and it belongs to Google. So good luck.
And after that, they're going to wait outside your children's schools and punch them in the face as they leave to board the school bus. Do independent artists have children? No.
No. Independent artists do not have children.
They can't afford them. Luckily, they can afford... Never mind. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen. Now, I do want to talk just for 1 second about YouTube's new streaming service here. So they're coming out with their own streaming service, and they're going to be competing head-on with things like, I guess, iTunes Music and Spotify, and I mean, who knows what else? Rhapsody. What else is there? Beats. I don't use any of these services. Google. Wait a minute. What about Google Music or whatever? It's going to be kind of competing with that. I guess YouTube is a I never actually thought of YouTube as something that people use for music, but apparently they create playlists and they stream crappy, piss-poor quality audio over YouTube. I don't know. Why do people... It's apparently a huge platform for music, so maybe I'm old-fashioned and I still have everything on a hard drive and it all plays through FooBar. That's the only way I'll do my music. The rest of it's garbage. I don't use any of it. So I guess it kind of logically does make sense for them to enter the music world, and I guess they're going to be doing some revenue sharing with a lot of the artists who join into this. The way this works is they remove the advertisements from the music, so you just get the music, but you have to pay a monthly fee or something like that. So it'll be a fee service, and then you'll have access to all this music and all these music channels and that sort of thing on YouTube. And apparently the deals that they're giving to major labels are a lot better than the deals that they're giving to independent labels and independent artists. So that's really what's going on right now. A lot of the independent artists are pissed because the big labels are getting the big deals with the better payouts and that sort of thing, and they're kind of getting shafted. So a lot of them are not signing this contract because they don't think it's fair. And then people on the internet blow up and go, oh my God, Google's going to delete all the YouTube videos from independent artists. So that's exactly what happened here, but I don't think that's the case. And we'll see if I'm proven wrong very soon. All right, let's move on and talk about some cool stuff. European hackers have decided to hold Domino's Pizza customer data hostage. So a hacker group called Rex Mundi, and they've done a few different things like this in the past. They stole 600,000 records from Domino's customers. And then this information did not include any credit card information, but it was personal information. So they call up Domino's, and they're like, hey, we would like 30,000 euros, and then we'll give you this information back. I guess it's digital information. I guess 30,000 euros is just to, I guess, ensure that they will not, share this information on the internet or whatever. So Domino's said no. That's it. Just no. They don't want to negotiate with terrorists, I suppose. I don't know what this means for the the security of all the user data that's there. Does that mean Domino's is going to allow them to just steal data and throw it everywhere? Should Domino's be responsible for this data, and should Domino's pay? I guess is what we should talk about. I mean, do you think they should pay?
The more interesting, well, no, they shouldn't pay. I mean, you can't negotiate with terrorists, but this there are several cases of this kind of thing happening throughout the computing industry. And to me, the more interesting one was Nokia, because somebody apparently figured out the private encryption keys for Nokia, and it was apparently really bad. It was sort of theorized that with these encryption keys you could create Nokia malware, and you could take over the universe. And so this was a while ago, I guess in like 2007, and it was the same kind of a deal. They figured out something, and Nokia apparently paid several $1 million. And the police were sent in to try to intercept the people as they were picking up the millions upon millions of, I guess it was euros. And the police lost track of them, and it's still considered a quote unquote open case, even though that was quite a while ago. So this kind of thing is not new in the corporate world, and a lot of the corporations are like, oh God, the bodies, we need to hide all this information.
I mean, but now it's essentially going to be Domino's fault when 600,000 people have their private information thrown on the internet. So is it Domino's fault that it wasn't secure enough? I don't know how to feel about this. I mean, I guess they should hunt down the hackers, and I'm not for black hat at all. Like that, the black hat gives the rest of the hackers a good name. The word hacker has become so tainted that it's like, the white hat hackers almost need to like rebrand themselves and start calling themselves something else, not white hat hackers or whatever. But I don't know.
Information liberators. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not freedom fighters.
Infra liberate. No, that's awful. I should never speak ever again.
Freedom bit blasters. I don't know.
None of these are good. I'd like to know in the comments what you guys think a new name for white hat hackers should be, because the word hacker will get you thrown in jail these days, and it's sad that it's so misunderstood. But stuff like this with Rex Monday, with groups like this doing junk like this, well, we're gonna have to worry about it all over again. So maybe the white hat hackers should put a hit out on these guys. And by hit, I don't mean kill. I mean hit, like let's go find out where these guys are and who they are and turn them over to the authorities so they can be properly dealt with and all that sort of thing. Rip the hair off their arms and make them feel bad. Whatever they do in that.
Most of the time, this kind of thing is really bad because you have a pointy-haired boss who is, basically the IT group is not allowed to do what's necessary to do proper maintenance on a system. And the pointy-haired boss is like, we didn't spend any money last year. Let's not spend any money this year. And so bit rot creeps in and bad sorts of things happen. And usually it's the IT group that gets thrown under the bus, but almost always it's an executive problem or a management problem.
Yeah, and if you're talking about the FCC, that goes on for 17 years until the comment system gets hacked, like we talked about last week. 17-year-old comment system.
Did we add
Insane.
the article about the former FCC commissioner saying that we ought to be ashamed of the broadband situation in America?
That's coming up. Just stay tuned. Keep watching. We didn't say anything right now. Let's move right along, and let's talk about Aaron Swartz. Now, this is an interesting article on Tech Dirt, and Aaron Swartz, what he did, one of the criminal activities was spoofing MAC addresses. And I'll go ahead and I'll let you discuss how spoofing MAC addresses work. I guess quickly, so people can just get a rough grasp of it.
Okay, so Ethernet, as it exists today, relies on every Ethernet device on Earth having a unique number, and it's 12 hexadecimal characters, you know, like AA001E, blah blah blah, and there's some, like, the MAC addresses are divided among manufacturers and things like that, and there's gazillions of them. There's way more MAC addresses than there are IP addresses. When they were doing the IP address thing, they were like, maybe we should add a couple of things and do that. And had they done that, we wouldn't have an IPv4 shortage. But so the MAC address is a globally unique number on every Ethernet adapter ever made, all the way back to like the experimental, 1 megabit per second DEC, ArcNet-ish, Ethernet-ish, not even twisted pair. We're talking BNC adapters. And so your wireless, a lot of devices that have more than one internet interface have more than one MAC address. Your cable modem has a MAC address. Wi-Fi adapters have a MAC address. If you've got a camera with the built-in wireless network thing, it's got a MAC address, and it's globally unique. So once a MAC address has been identified as a particular person, as you can do on a network with sophisticated software, then an individual can be identified. And it has gotten popular inside of stores to track the MAC addresses, not for network management purposes, but for identification purposes from now until the end of time. So that it's like, oh, we saw this MAC address on our free open wireless network 800 times. That's, probably somebody that really likes Starbucks in the mall or whatever.
Now, MAC addresses, you can also, on your router, you can go in and you can add like a list of safe MAC addresses, and they can pretty much just bypass the security, because when they come in, they're like, oh, I know that MAC address. You right this way, sir. And so they just let you in. And Aaron Swartz was using this to his benefit. He was spoofing the MAC address to essentially make the other server or the routers think that he was a different device, think that he was using a different device that was allowed to have access to files that he shouldn't have had access to. So that's a very rough way to sum it up. Now, he got in big trouble for this. Criminal, go ahead.
The prosecutor was saying that is evidence of nefarious or criminal intent because he's spoofing his identity. So it must be evidence of criminal intent. And that was actually not really a cornerstone of the prosecution's case, but that was a big thing that they were pushing for, and they were pushing for jail time and this kind of thing because, Aaron Swartz was changing his MAC address on his thing that he was using to download documents.
So now Apple has decided to make MAC address spoofing essentially a MAC address that changes all the time on their devices, sort of the normal thing. And the idea really here is that it's going to give security, like an extra level of privacy and security to the individual, so that when they go around, it'll be more difficult to track them on Wi-Fi, hot spots like you were just talking about, like Wendell was just mentioning, and that sort of thing. And right now, they're kind of being seen as a hero. Like, wow, this is a huge step forward. So it's an interesting double standard here, but to be fair, Aaron Swartz was using this in a way that would give him, access to stuff he maybe shouldn't have had access to. So they're using it for different things, but they're doing the same thing. And, Aaron Swartz, criminal, Apple, hero. Funny. So double standards are funny. All right, you ready to move on?
It is really horrifying.
Yeah. Speaking of horrifying, this app has raised $1 million. Do you know what it does? It says yo. It freaking says yo. That's it. 2 words, yo. I wish I was kidding, but it's raised $1 million. Do you ever sit down and think that maybe if you were, I don't know, maybe about 90 IQ points lower, you might be able to make $1 million on an app like yo? Yeah, that's what we're going to leave it with. Just and we're going to move right on. What else do we have to talk about? Oh yeah, we have a lot of Tesla and Elon Musk stuff to talk about. So let's get right down to the point. Now, Tesla last week, we talked about his interesting opening of a lot of his patents. He said, you know, as long as people are using them, he's going to open up his patents, and he's going to say, in good faith, I'm not going to sue you for using this large swath of our patent portfolio. And he did retain some things like the battery. But you guys can go back and watch last week's episode for more information on the patents that Elon Musk released for pretty much just... He pretty much made them open source, kind of, maybe, sort of. Anyway, it's already paying off because a lot of car manufacturers like Nissan and BMW have already been talking to Elon Musk about using some of their technology in upcoming cars. It's going to help expand the network. The current network only has 97 charging stations, but as more cars move to it, and BMW and Nissan are both huge car manufacturers in the USA and around the world, but as they move to using some of Tesla's technology, it's going to make it more ubiquitous, and it's also going to unify and sort of make it like a standard. And that's really what he needs for his automotive endeavors to really take off and become a major deal instead of just like a major headline and a pretty big deal, if that makes any sense. So that's pretty cool. Let's move on and talk about his solar company. So Elon Musk is just he was in some interviews this week. I think it was on either MSNBC or CBS. I forget what channel it was on, but there's been a lot of articles coming out about some of the things that he said. So he's also invested in a solar power company called Solar City. And with Solar City, he's kind of frustrated at the pace that solar is going. It's slow, and people are still way too reliant upon fossil fuels. So he seems to have an attitude of, if you want to do something, you got to do it yourself. So he invested in Solar City, and right now he said that they are building a new factory that is going to be several levels larger, or several. What's the phrase I'm looking for? It's going to be way larger than anything else that's out there right now. He said he really needs a massive facility to facilitate the demand for solar, and I guess his dream is to have buildings that are completely covered in solar, and they're completely self-sustainable, and they have enough power to also power the Teslas that's in the garage. So that's interesting. I don't know anything you want to chime in on that before we move on to the next Elon Musk article.
He definitely has delusions. No, maybe not delusions, but he has big plans, and it will be interesting to see how he follows through on them.
Perhaps the biggest of his plans, he wants to put humans on Mars by 2026. That's about 10 years ahead of NASA. So SpaceX wants to be there. And I think some of the, it's CNBC. What did I say? MSNBC? CNBC. So I think one of the interesting things about his ideas about Mars is that for him, going to Mars and landing is not the goal. The goal is to have a self-sufficient colony on Mars. And one of the statements here, I'm just going to go ahead and read this. He says, if humans fail to become a multi-planet species, we will inevitably just hang out here on Earth until some sort of extinction level event occurs. So, doing a lot of thinking, man. I don't know. I mean, it sounds to me like he's working for the good of humanity. Some people are kind of negative on us when we are positive on anything. Have you noticed that, Wendell? Like, some people just like, if we say anything good about anything, they're like, you guys are being way too nice. Everything sucks. Everyone's out to get us. Elon Musk is going to shoot us in the back of the head. He's going to get everyone to buy his cars, and then he's going to do something terrible to screw us, and the 1% is scaring me. And I feel like we can't say anything positive. I feel like this, coming from Elon Musk, he seems to be trying to be a good steward of, well, more than just what he's given. He also seems to be trying to do things that look out for humanity. Do you see any like ulterior motives hidden anywhere in this?
He can be like the next Bill Gates, I guess. I don't know. I mean, but that might be good. Bill Gates turned out to be rather philanthropic, and if you were there in the 80s, it was like, he's the devil and he's going to eat our soul, and that turned out okay. I would really like to see us terraform Mars. That's a thing. And so it's like, I can get behind somebody that's like, yeah, I'm going to put an effort into terraforming Mars.
I mean, how much more technology would we need to make something like that happen? I mean, you'd have to, it would be a lot.
It's like, even assuming that we could terraform Mars, the terraforming is not going to stick. So we would have to have technology to make it stay, because it will just, the atmosphere will float away and things like that. But I think we could do that. If we have the technology to terraform it, I think that we could take that technology and do something else. But here's the real mind bender. If we did have the technology to terraform Mars, it probably wouldn't take the form of, computerized, mechanized technology like we have with, with our current industrialization, we would probably do it with microbes engineered specifically for the purpose of turning it into a, whatever. And then it's like, oh, that's interesting, because microbes could just be engineered to take over the entire planet and turn it into something habitable. Huh.
That's the kind of genetic modification that I'm all for. That sort of genetic science. We could do a lot with it. Anyway, Elon Musk also is worried about the Terminator, and that's why he's invested in another company called Vicarious, who are making some. They're trying. I guess their goal is that they want human level intelligence and vision and language, and they're trying to create these robots. And he said he kind of stood back and he was like, "Well, yeah, we're all moving forward at a breakneck pace, but there's a lot of people." Being ignored who are asking important questions, because a lot of times the public, they see these things and they're like, yeah, robots, yeah, crazy artificial intelligence, but are people actually standing back and saying like, well, okay, what if the Terminator? So he's standing back and he's saying like, I do see a potential for the Terminator, and he's joking around in some of his in the interview here, but even in the movie Terminator, they didn't expect the Terminator outcome, and that's what happens when you rush forward without, I guess weighing out all the potential scenarios. I'm not saying I'm believing that a Terminator scenario could occur, but he's putting money into this just so he can, have a thumb on something that he thinks is interesting, number one, and at the same time beneficial to humanity and needs to be watched. So that's it.
I think that with people, intelligence evolved with a lot of other baggage. And, sure, we have sociopathic people in society, but when we invent this super intelligence, or when we invent artificial intelligence, it is not going to be governed by any kind of moral code. And so it will be exactly as moral and controlled as the people in control of it. And so if you could create an intelligence that was intelligent enough to be like, go forth, my robot assassins, and do whatever, they would do it without any kind of feeling or remorse or anything like that. And that is the dangerous thing. It's not the creation of the intelligence, because the intelligence is not going to do anything on its own. It's not going to have the will to reproduce or the will to spread itself unless it is programmed with that. But if it is so ordered to, do whatever, it will, and it will be unstoppable.
Well, you guys, I need some help here from the comments. I want to know if you guys do see any ulterior motives in this, because Elon Musk is looking pretty groovy. And I mean, I know he's a businessman, but I don't see him out there doing things that are destructive. I see him doing things that make him a ton of money, but also move things in the right direction. And I'm usually okay with that sort of thing. That's why I'm usually kind of positive about Google, even though I don't like a lot of their data collection methods. I do see that they are, well, I wouldn't say that they're as good as Musk, but they are moving in a more right direction for humanity than companies like Comcast and that sort of thing. So I'm pretty
if I were alive when electricity were taking hold and I were looking at the whole Edison versus Tesla thing, I'd be like, Edison's kind of a jackass. He's making this thing that we're all going to be dependent on and we have to have, and we should stop him maybe. And so, it's really easy. It's really easy to look at something with hindsight and see it clearly. But as it's happening, you could totally look at the development of electricity in America and be like, this Edison guy, he really should be stopped. He's a force of nature. He's like doing hideously evil things, but he's got this great PR campaign. So you don't necessarily always have the perception unless you look underneath.
Well, that could be something that, I mean, I don't want to liken Google to Edison, but what if Google goes down that route and they make us so dependent upon their services and then they start to abuse us even more than they already are? So there's always that side of it as well. So. We need Kane to show up just so we could go Skynet. Anyway, let's move on to talk about some more fun stuff. We're going to get into some NSA stuff, and we're going to get into some FCC stuff and all that. But first, I wanted to just show you guys this fun plugin for Chrome and Firefox, and I believe also Safari. It's what the hell is this thing called? The plugin is called Greenhouse, and here's what it does. You install it in your browser, and then let's say you have a congressman or anybody that's in politics. What it does is it finds their name, like for instance, Mitch McConnell here, and it adds all this information to show you exactly where all their contributions are coming from. So this is the Mitch McConnell
transparency in government. I can't believe it.
These are all from OpenSecrets.org, but a lot of people just don't have time all day to sit around, and look at OpenSecrets.org. But the beauty in this is, let's say you're reading an article about some senator who is saying that Comcast is the best company ever. Well, it will automatically see his name in that article. It's not just specific to Wikipedia. It's anywhere that the name pops up on the internet. It will highlight it and give you a list of where all their money comes from. So you could be like, hover over it and be like, oh, telecommunications industry, $900,000. So you'll immediately know. This is now one of my favorite plugins. I can hover over things and be like, oh, of course, Mitch McConnell, he's getting a lot from securities and investment, but look at how much he's getting from oil and gas. He's in Kentucky. Oil and gas is probably lumped into the same category as coal. So, yeah, he's very pro coal, isn't he? I believe. I'm not. Yep. I don't follow him too awful much, but yeah. So anyway, that's a very
thing that we have
plugin
that makes money.
Yep, and he's for things that make money for Kentucky, despite. I get. Yeah, never mind. This is not a Kentucky politics show. Anyway, let's talk about the FCC, shall we? The former commissioner, right here, there he is, Michael Copps, and he said that we should be ashamed of ourselves for the state of broadband and the internet. Now, this is kind of interesting. There's a lot of groups right now meeting, and they're discussing the 1996 Telecommunications Act. And he's been.
You guys should go check out our video.
Yeah, guys, go check out our video on the 1996 Telecommunications Act. It will give you a lot of information about it. I probably should go take a look at it because I forget some of the finer details that we outlined and put in that video, but go check it out. Anyway, yeah, he's really arguing that competition hasn't been given the chance that it needs. You guys should really take a really good look at this article. But he does say that I'll quote here, we've fallen so far short that we should be ashamed of ourselves. We should be leading and we're not. We need to get serious about broadband, and we need to get serious about competition, and we need to get serious about our country. So he's really upset that a lot of the the major ISPs and this sort of thing, they keep merging, and he's been against a lot of the mergers that have happened, but they keep merging. The competition keeps shrinking, or the competition keeps buying each other, and then of course the legislation has been making it very difficult for smaller companies to compete. So it's not exactly a fair and open free game right now. It's the opposite of that, and he's complaining about it. Go ahead.
He actually referred to the situation as insanity. The current wave of merger mania in the telecom field and the looming threats of losing net neutrality is insanity. I like it when people use that word.
Well, it absolutely is insanity when you look at it from an outsider's perspective. If you're an insider, it makes great sense because it's putting a lot of money into your pockets immediately with total disregard for the future. These guys are not playing chess. They're playing, I don't know what they're playing. If they're playing chess, it's the worst game ever. What game are they playing? They're playing the instant gratification game. In 5 years, a lot of these companies are going to be, well, maybe 10 years, they're going to be not so happy that they did all these things. When you play this, go ahead.
It makes blood shoot out of my nose because it's just so stupid.
You know what else is so stupid? AT&T is claiming that strong net neutrality would actually ruin the internet, and they are kicking and screaming because they do not want to be reclassified under Title II. And some of the stuff that they're saying here is that, all right, listen, if we reclassify us under Title II, basically that says that that they're information companies. Exactly what I missed my words here. It's
Title II is a telecommunications company. It's got tighter regulations than Title I. Title II is basically an infrastructure company, which is it's sort of treated like a public trust. Like, this company is a monopoly, and they're in the public trust, and the public trusts them to always do the right thing and blah blah blah, and they have to do better record keeping about what wires run where and why. And Title I is more like information services, which is things that run over Title II infrastructure usually. But Title I is a lot looser and more open and doesn't have specific regulations, and basically that has translated into anti-competitive behavior is okay if you're Title I, but under Title II, there are very elaborate legal frameworks to prevent anti-competitive behavior.
So Jim Ciccone, he's the CEO of AT&T, or one of the company executives. I'm not sure I think he's the CEO, but he's one of the executives at AT&T. he's been arguing that if everything's reclassified, there would be some loopholes, and that's number one. It's the first part of his argument. The second part of his argument is that I guess the wording is so vague that companies like Google and Netflix would be seen as like almost like common carriers because they're also sending information and they have servers and hubs and that sort of thing. It's kind of a ridiculous argument, but he's saying that the FCC would be able to come in and collect money and fees for them and essentially make it very difficult for them to do their business. So it's almost like he's saying like, no, we should keep the internet the way it is so that we can have money from Google and Netflix. And if things go the wrong way, then the government's going to get money from Google and Netflix, even though they're not. I mean, that's absolutely asinine. But he's trying to turn things around. That's what sociopaths do. They try to turn things around and basically make it look like the other parties are going to be doing what they actually want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so today's corporate opposite day, and so what AT&T is saying, yes, let's actually do this because it would be good for America and good for citizens because it's corporate opposite day, and they're saying the opposite of what's really true because every day is corporate opposite day when you have a corporation that's large and dysfunctional. The thing that is most troublesome here is that they do want to lump in other companies and say, oh, well, this will affect other companies. But that's not true at all because they're not talking about these specific companies. And it's even more insane than that because the FCC has the power of forbearance, which literally means the FCC can pick and choose what to enforce. And as long as they're not picking and choosing individual, like this carrier wins and this carrier rules, there's nothing anybody can do about it. If they choose not to enforce a certain rule under Title II, that is their prerogative. But Title II, classifying communications companies as Title II gives them that power. And that is what is so insane. These people that are like, oh, we're going to have a debate between Title I and Title II. If the FCC tomorrow reclassified them as Title II and said, hey, we're going to reclassify you as Title II, but nothing else changes, there is literally nothing these companies would have to do. It does not affect anything. If the FCC said, we're not going to enforce anything, we're just going to change the classification so that we have the ability to enforce stuff if we choose to, that would be perfectly acceptable. And that's why any argument that tells you anything else is lies or manipulation.
Let's talk about competition because we were talking about what competition does for the world. And right here we have a prime example of how competition is good. Of course, in Austin, Google is installing Google Fiber. Time Warner has just announced that they are going to be upgrading their internet speeds for free to 300 megabits per second for about 100,000 of their subscribers in that area. That's exactly a direct result of Google Fiber being installed in that area. I don't see any other reason why they would do it other than that. So,
can they upgrade some of their service areas that have crap service? Because that would be much appreciated because we're not getting Google Fiber anytime soon.
Municipal fiber, man, it's got to happen. So, I mean, Louisville actually has, I saw that they're going to have a couple companies laying some fiber pretty soon. I forgot to mention the article, but that could be a pretty big deal. Maybe it'll drive some stuff to other parts of the state. Who knows?
Well, see, that's funny because not in that article, but the city said, hey, who wants to do this? And they had an interest from a few parties that had the chops to do that, nothing really huge. But the people from Time Warner actually came out and said, we're in this area. Nobody actually wants this service in this area. And it's like, I'm sorry, what planet are you from again?
No, nobody wants anything good here. Yeah. Let's move right along.
Nobody wants anything good because it costs $2,000 a month.
Yeah, well, right now that's pretty much what you're paying. I don't think you should say what you're paying over the show, but for what do you have? What do you have, like 1/10 the speed of Google Fiber? Is that what you're running right now?
Yeah, 1/10 the speed of Google Fiber for 10 times the price. It's a commercial connection, but I mean that's the status quo. Everywhere there is Time Warner that they offer something better than cable, it is 1/10 the speed of Google Fiber for 10 times the price.
Let's just move on. I can't deal with it. Let's talk about T-Mobile. They're unveiling a new service called Unradio, the Uncarrier, the Unradio, and I was about to join T-Mobile, but right now I'm kind of worried. So here's what they're doing with the Unradio. You join T-Mobile and you pick your plan, and then you pick how much data you want. And on most of the plans, you have a data bandwidth cap, and it's usually pretty small, like 2, 3, or whatever gigabytes of data per month. And if you're going to sit around and stream Spotify or whatever, well, you're screwed because you're going to use all your data bandwidth. Now, what they've decided to do is they've partnered with Rhapsody to release Rhapsody Unradio. And with Rhapsody Unradio, all of the bandwidth does not count towards your bandwidth cap. So you can stream it all day. It's essentially unlimited. Now, here's what I see from this. They are creating unfair competition because if you're on T-Mobile and you have Spotify, well, of course you're going to want to switch to Rhapsody because your data bandwidth is going to be used up. You're not going to be able to get on YouTube or Facebook or anything else you want to do on your phone, the internet, check your emails. But with, Rhapsody on radio, use it all day long and still have enough bandwidth left over to do all your other stuff on your phone. That's extremely uncompetitive, anti-competitive. I don't know why the FTC has not, come in with a hammer and hit them in the head yet. I mean, Wendell, what the hell?
Bell Mobility did this. I think it was Bell Mobility with their television service. This will be struck down when it is challenged at the federal level. The courts correctly reasoned that, a television show is a television show is a television show, and they didn't quite abstract it as far as data is data is data. But I think it was Bell Mobility, and some guy was watching a TV show on Netflix, or on Bell Mobility, and then he switched to Netflix, and the bill when watching the TV show through Netflix was like $300 or something. And so he went to court, and it made its way through, I think, to the district level. I don't think it made it all the way to the federal level, but the court looked at that and said, no, this is anti-competitive. You have a service and there's a competing service, and if your actual cost to send him this television show is $5 a month, you can only charge him $5 a month for the same thing through Netflix or whatever. And so his $300 bill was reduced to like $5. And so this will be found to be anti-competitive with other streaming services.
We have one more article to talk about here with the whole FCC cable business thing, and then we'll move on. Some Democrats have unveiled some legislation to force the FCC to ban internet fast lanes. So Wheeler's not doing his job. So the freaking legislature has to do it for him. That just blows my mind. So we've got the Democratic Senator Patrick Leahy from Vermont working together with a Republican from California, Doris Matsui, I think it is, Matsui. There we go. Now, I'm gonna, I love this plug-in right here. I'm hovering over Patrick Leahy up in Vermont. He did a bunch of stuff with the RIA, and if you look here, TV, movies, and music, his second donor from the top there. I love this plug-in. So, yeah, I didn't trust him when he was doing that RIA stuff, but he got paid $382,000 to do some things. Anyway, he has introduced some legislation that's going to force the FCC to basically reclassify. And he's quoted here saying our country cannot afford pay-for-play schemes that divide our internet into tiers based upon who has the deepest pockets, and I could not agree with him more. And I really do think it's sad that Tom Wheeler's not doing his job, and that, Leahy and the other Democrats have been forced to come in and essentially legislate something that, FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler could do with a few signatures.
I don't know that this is going to be enough. Like, they're going to have to put something in there about enforcement as well, because the FCC is like a little 9-year-old girl that just will not eat her mashed potatoes. And it's like, you will eat your mashed potatoes. And it's like, no, I won't. You can't make me. And it's like, all right, I'm going to put your mashed potatoes in your room. You have to go to your room. Here's your mashed potatoes. And I'm going to close the door. And just because you put, a 9-year-old girl in a room with mashed potatoes does not mean she's going to eat them. So that forbearance thing works against us in this case. Even if they pass this legislation, the FCC is not necessarily going to do anything still. So it's like, yeah, they're Title II, but we're not going to do anything. So, meh.
So Leahy's essentially locking Wheeler in a room with mashed potatoes, but not shoving his head into the mashed potatoes. Leahy needs to shove his head into the mashed potatoes and force him to ingest. That's bottom line here. You
I
heard
would
it on
pay
the
to see that. Can we get that in like the WWF ring, and it's like Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Man, that
would be amazing.
Old school. WWF, the freaking poor animals fighting. I still say WWF too. It's from, pardon me, it's from the old school. Can't help it.
World Wildlife Federation.
Yeah.
World Wildlife Wrestling Federation. The WWF.
Yeah. Grizzly versus giant spider. I don't know. Story at 11. Let's talk about the ACLU and some stuff that's on the screen right now that I haven't even looked at yet. I'm just making that up. I did look at this. So we talked a little while ago about Stingray. And Stingray was a mobile surveillance system that was happening in Florida. Essentially, there were fake towers in Florida, and they were just collecting data on phones that went by and that sort of thing. And then this was being used for law enforcement, for tracking purposes, for who knows what. The ACLU sued, and it looked like Florida was going to have to turn over all of the information to the ACLU in court until, to the rescue, the U.S. Marshal, the feds, came in and seized all of the data and said, no, we have it now. So the next step is they went back to court. ACLU was like, make the feds give us over the data. And the courts ruled that the U.S. Marshals, that's federal. And the courts do not have jurisdiction over federal, drop the case. So now it looks like the U.S. Marshals have come in and saved the day. It is unbelievable the extent that, the government will go to keep things secret, things that should be made public. It's unbelievable the extent that, or what's the word I'm looking for? The extent that they go to keep secrets.
Unconstitutional? Is that the word you're looking for?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Unconstitutional. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really. There was apparently also something under seal given to the judge, and the judge was like, "Okay, that's good." But that is a procedural error, I believe. If the judge receives something under seal, and it is used to make the decision, the other party, which in this case is the ACLU, is entitled to know that. And so the ACLU is fighting it from that angle as well. So records of this, warrantless spying device were definitely seized, which definitely tells you that if, it became a public record of what they were doing, people would freak out. Why else would you do this? Why else would you send the U.S. Marshals in to collect this paperwork? I mean, how are people not looking at this, being deeply disturbed and, freaking out because this is a completely absurd thing to happen?
Man, I'm going to totally mess this up, and I'm sure someone will mention this in the comments, but it's gotten to the point where this week someone was giving a speech in public, and, there's all these problems, and his response was like, oh, well, we just need to follow the Constitution and have the government follow the Constitution and turn over this data to, whoever it was, the EFF or whatever. And the response from the audience in the room was laughter. And then it's just kind of sad that you get to the point where it's like, oh, we should follow the Constitution. When someone says that on stage, it is met with public laughter. That hurts my brain. So, yeah. All right, let's talk about the Secret Service. The Secret Service, they really want to automate a lot of things. And, because right now they look at things on the internet and they can't tell if they're real or fake, or people are saying things in social media. So they're trying to find some software that will detect sarcasm in social media. How hard do you think that'll be to write? Sarcasm in social media. I don't even know. So I guess their objective here is to automate the social media monitoring process, and I don't even know. It's going to be a mess. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be a huge mess. I don't know. I don't really know where to go with this.
That's just a boondoggle. Somebody in Booz Allen called somebody else and said, "Hey, send us a bunch of money," and it's like, I know, I'll come up with a boondoggle of a project. Here you go. Yay.
I mean, it seems like that would be completely impossible. How can you detect sarcasm? Is it just going to look for JK or whatever? Like, hey, I'm going to beat up your family. JK? Oh, that's sarcasm. Hey, I'm going to beat up your family. Send the feds to knock his door down, or whatever, Beat up your family is the nicest thing I can say on YouTube without having people knock my door down because I'm being sarcastic. And if you don't believe me, I'll kill you. Go ahead.
I think that the situation, it occurs to me that there may be something more disturbing here going on. So we know that all this information is being vacuumed up and stored. And so right now we don't have the software to process this and put it together. But what if in 10 years we do? What if in 10 years we have software to go through all of this and have it make sense? What if we have everything you've ever posted anywhere that is directly traceable and attributable to you. And eventually we have an engine that is able to go through and parse and find that, and can find people that are saying like anti-American things, or that are saying this, that, and the other. And they're investigated for no other reason than a computational algorithm has popped them out. I mean, doesn't that seem like something these guys would do?
Yeah, then they could retroactively go back and look through all the data that they're storing now-ish, and then go and beat up people for things they said when they were 12, now that they're 30. I can see that happening.
The retroactivity thing is always the thing that bites you in the ass. It happened with World War I, and it happened with World War II. You know, the Dutch on their census had their religious affiliation, and there's like, oh, you know, what possible harm could that come to? And then, you know, World War II, and that was bad. And so, you know, it's like, you know, so what possible harm could there come from me saying something on Twitter? It's like, well, you don't know, because it could come back to haunt you 20 years from now.
Yep. All right, let's talk about some hackers. And we're almost finished with the episode here. And we got a fun hardware episode coming up as well. Hackers have reverse engineered the NSA's leaked bugging devices. So the hackers actually got some papers that were released from the Snowden leaks, and they've used it to reverse engineer some of the NSA's bugging devices.
So they're in the vice president's office in the 80s. The Russians, it was ingenious. I think it was the vice president's office. So the Russian school children, quote unquote, made this wooden presidential seal, and so it was sent to the president as a political gift. And you know, so it was searched over by the intelligence. You know, it's a solid wooden thing. It's from school children that just can't possibly have a political agenda. And the various intelligence members searched over it and blah blah blah. And it was like, no, it's clean. There's no bugs. It's fine. There's no power source. There's no signature. There's no, you know, totally clean room at the bottom, you know, 20 stories under Langley, Virginia. This thing is clean. We got no signals, nothing. It's good. So it hung in, I think, the vice president's office for 20 years, or maybe it was the secretary of education or something. And it was ingenious. Inside it was an antenna that would pick up microwave radiation. And so it was a bug, but it would receive power externally. So when they wanted to activate it, they would point basically a radio signal at this thing. It would receive the radio signal, and then the reflector on that was hooked up to a mic in the room. So based on the reflected signal, the audio would modulate that signal so that you effectively had a listening device that was passively powered by microwave or some other type of radio frequency radiation. And so that was ingenious, and it was there for 20 years, and it was never detected, because whenever they would do a bug sweep, you know, the bug wasn't active, and it had no internal power source, so how could this possibly work? Well, it turns out that these NSA USB cable bugs and things like that operate on very similar principles. And so some crazy reverse engineer hacker people looked at it and said, how would we do that really simply and inexpensively and without a lot of headache? And thus all this was born.
So, yeah, Osman, they're actually going to show this off at DEF CON. That's in August in Vegas. We ought to go out to that. That'd be a lot of fun. You think they'll actually make it to the stage without getting tackled by, I don't know, some guys in black suits?
Yeah, because it's basically tantamount to a defective cable that's got an RF leak. I mean, normally you send something off for FCC certification so that it doesn't cause interference with other devices. And this is like, oh, well, let's cause interference so we can actually pick up with another piece of equipment. It's like, damn it.
All right, last article of this episode. AMC Networks are making a web-based subscription TV service, and they're going to have some specialized content like documentaries and that sort of thing just for their TV service. Now, AMC is a channel that offers a lot of shows that you guys watch, like Mad Men. Did they do Breaking Bad? I believe they did.
Yep.
And then they also are doing, like, what's that zombie thing that I don't watch? The Walking Dead. Yeah, I've never watched it. I got tired. Everyone keeps telling me I should watch this. I got kind of tired of zombies after the millionth zombie thing came out, and now we can't stop with zombies versus everything. Zombies versus I don't know, strollers. It's ridiculous. But so I've missed the Walking Dead, but maybe I'll watch it now that it's online, because I don't have cable TV. So what I think they're really doing here.
Somebody gets it.
Yeah, it really does.
This strongly suggests somebody gets it, and it's like, you know, what crazy crack are you smoking? Have the young people fired all the old people that have no idea what's going on, or is it an old person that knows what they're doing? I don't understand.
You know, I think I'm going to be really curious to see what happens when they release this streaming service. I want to know what it will do as far as piracy goes on their stuff. Is it going to go down? I'm predicting that piracy will actually drop, because I think a lot of the reasons that people download this stuff is because they don't have a TV subscription and they don't have a legal means to do so, but they do really want to watch it. So I think people who have a couple bucks in their pocket will obviously do the legal thing if the option is available. So I think the piracy for their shows will go down, but we'll wait and see. Also, we wanted to give you guys a heads up on some giveaways that are going on. These are not Tech Syndicate giveaways. We just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Plex Store is giving away some SSDs, and you can go to our website here, just Tech Syndicate/forum/contest, but there'll be a link in the description on our website, or in the the body of the whatever on our website. Yeah, also, there's a code here for Newegg to save you some money. It's Tech M6E. So if you're buying an M6E PCI Express SSD, so you just go to Newegg and enter code Tech M6E, and that'll get you some money off. So anyway, we'll see you guys in the next episode. I've got to take a break now. I was going to do the second episode, but we need AC, and I'm unplugging the AC for you guys because that noise. But yeah, it's time to put the AC back on. All summer long, I'm going to be like having a hard time doing videos. I might just do them naked. You guys would watch, wouldn't you? The hit count will go through the roof. Yeah. Okay, just go away, guys. I'll see you next week, or whenever you guys watch another video. You'll see me before I see you. Never mind. Bye.